I don't want a new pretty mother. I want someone who will listen to me when I'm scared." The entire room fell silent. The 5 wealthy women, impeccably dressed, wearing expensive perfumes with smiles ready for photos, stopped competing with each other and stared at the boy in the suit, who pointed without trembling. The millionaire held his breath, accustomed to closing huge deals with a stroke of the pen. He wasn't prepared to hear from his own son the sentence that would dismantle his perfect showcase. "Dad, you said I could choose, so I choose Elisa." The name echoed like a snap. The disguised laughter turned into indignant astonishment. The butler stumbled over the etiquette of silence, and Elisa herself put her hand to her mouth, not knowing where to hide her racing heart. "What? The cleaning lady?" one of the socialites exclaimed, with the kind of surprise that hurts. The boy didn't back down. "She's the only one who talks to me like I'm a person. She knows what to do when I wake up in the middle of the night remembering my mom, and she doesn't laugh at me." The father tried to maintain his composure, but the final phrase, "doesn't laugh at me," pierced his armor. There, before the impeccable lawn and the white columns of the modern mansion, the truth arrived raw, without makeup. Love isn't chosen by resume, photo, or status. Love is recognized in care. And in that second, even surrounded by luxury, the millionaire understood that his greatest investment would be to honor his own son's courage, whatever the cost to his reputation among his peers. Before we delve into this amazing story, tell me which city and state you're watching from. Leave a comment and I'll reply with gratitude. And while you're at it, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and like this video. We want to share more stories like this. Ricardo Vasconcelos always knew how to measure value. He transformed bankrupt companies into market benchmarks, read balance sheets like one reads maps, and predicted crises with the coldness of someone who learned early on that hesitation is costly. But since becoming a widower 3 years earlier, he discovered a territory where calculation didn't help. The silence of his son's room after a nightmare, the empty chair at dinner, the urgency of filling a void that money can't fill. His friends, the few who didn't orbit around his profits, said it was only a matter of time before he rebuilt his family. Image consultants suggested that choosing a new wife would also reposition his personal brand, calm investors, and bring domestic stability. The idea took on an advertising form. 5 women from influential families, educated, beautiful, and fit to become the next Mrs. Vasconcelos. The selection would be discreet, civilized, almost an auction of smiles. There was one detail no one considered. Gabriel, the 8-year-old only child, wasn't an asset on the spreadsheet. He was a child who still called his mother "my light" when he whispered to her picture before bed. In the household routine, the one who understood this language was Elisa, the cleaning lady who arrived early, left late, and, even without a degree in etiquette, mastered the rare art of placing a child at the center of things. Not out of self-interest, out of instinct. While the mansion prepared for the parade of candidates, Elisa set the table, listened to Gabriel practice a song on the piano that he couldn't finish without crying. And when he failed, she didn't say, "Try again." She said, "I'm here." Sometimes that's all a child needs to keep going. The day of the presentation arrived like the changing seasons, with beautiful promises and a breeze that guarantees nothing. Ricardo believed he had everything under control. He didn't know that in the invisible wall between appearance and truth, his son would create the first crack. Block 1, the impossible proposal and the first confrontation. The modern mansion was prepared as if it were hosting an international negotiation. An impeccable garden, a glass-walled room letting in just the right amount of sunlight, waiters lined up with trays of water and juices, and a script designed to impress, introductions, a tour of the art gallery, an intimate conversation with Gabriel, and finally, a dinner with a table positioned for the perfect photo. The 5 guests arrived in cars that seemed to float. Each carried an impeccable social resume and a speech rehearsed in front of the mirror. Gabriel, in a small suit and crooked tie, tried to adjust the knot without asking for help. He observed the women's choreography from the stairs, noticing that 2 were whispering, another was already talking about the club where all the children are prodigies, and the 4th was asking the butler if there were photographers. The 5th entered gently and touched the boy's shoulder. "Hi, Gabriel, I heard you like dinosaurs." He offered a short smile, the kind that doesn't reach the heart. Ricardo, attentive to every gesture, felt comfortable. We're on the right track. The comfort was short-lived. As they walked down the hallway towards the garden, the group crossed paths with Elisa, who was discreetly picking up a cart that had been knocked over near the stairs. Gabriel stepped down, approached and whispered, "Thank you for fixing my Tyrannosaurus Rex. It stood there all night." Elisa winked conspiratorially. It just needed someone to gently push it. A small, genuine laugh escaped the boy. The guests observed as if noticing an unimportant detail. For Gabriel, it was everything. In the planned dynamic, each woman would have 5 minutes alone with him to really talk. The first sat at the piano and asked him to play. He began, trembling in the same rhythm that always reminded him of his mother, and stopped. She, with a professional smile, said, "Oh, darling, music requires discipline. You need to practice until you get it right." The word discipline sounded like a sentence. He nodded without enthusiasm. The second complimented his suit, asked about his school, and suggested trips. The third, elegant to the bone, spoke about philanthropy, as if talking about networking. The 4th tried a joke. It worked for a second. Then she secretly checked her phone, and the boy noticed. The 5th was the most charming, but she felt an urgency to perform. "I would be an amazing mother to you." The phrase, intended to be comforting, weighed heavily as if someone were choosing for him. When the circuit ended, Gabriel was exhausted from being on display. He went to the kitchen to get some air and found Elisa organizing jars. "Do you also get scared before playing?" he asked. She wiped her hands, leaned against the counter, and answered with honesty, "That doesn't hurt." "I do. Fear is like the wind. You can't make it stop, but you can choose where to turn your face." He laughed at the simple way she spoke seriously. "If I mess up the song, everyone will look." Elisa added, "Then let them look at your courage." At that moment, one of the guests unintentionally entered the kitchen, saw the 2 of them, and frowned. "Gabriel, the living room is outside, dear." The dear was tinged with impatience. "He'll be right there," said Elisa, without diminishing herself. "Please, go back to the living room," the woman interrupted, and left with the sound of heels that always announces small humiliations. Gabriel clenched his fist. For the first time, he felt anger at that charade. He returned to the living room beside his father, who noticed the storm in his son's eyes, but preferred to follow protocol. "It's time to choose." The phrase echoed too adult for an 8-year-old heart. Gabriel took a deep breath and stared at the row of colorful dresses that looked more like facades. He remembered his mother's portrait, the song he couldn't finish, and the night he woke up crying. Elisa found him, not asking, "Why are you crying?" but rather, "Where does it hurt?" The answer came before the fear. "Dad, you said I could choose." Ricardo nodded, confident that any of the 5 would fulfill the role efficiently. Gabriel pointed without trembling. "Then I choose Elisa." The room stopped. A muffled laugh escaped from a corner. "The cleaning lady!" The word fell like a stone on glass. Gabriel raised his chin. "She treats me like a person." One of the women tried to salvage her own elegance with a, "Darling, you're lovely," but the boy didn't look at her. The father tried to control the damage. "Son, Elisa is part of the team, isn't she? "I choose whoever truly takes care of me," interrupted Gabriel with the courage that only the weary possess. All eyes turned to Elisa, who felt small and gigantic at the same time. She breathed as if learning to speak in front of important people and said, without stuttering, "Mr. Ricardo, I'm not a candidate for anything. I just take care of your son." That's when the giggles turned into explicit sarcasm, comments about everyone's place, about childish emotional turmoil, about boundaries between family and work. Gabriel stepped forward, his fist still clenched. "No one laughs at Elisa." The garden of white columns lost its charm. Suddenly, everything in that beautiful setting seemed soulless. Ricardo, caught between protecting his image and protecting his son, felt the ground shake. And for the first time since becoming a widower, he asked himself if he wasn't trying to heal the house when it was his son's heart that needed healing. The event would continue. The image consultants would advise him to work around it. The guests would still fight for space. But the axis of the story had already shifted without anyone noticing. It wasn't about choosing a wife, it was about a father relearning to listen to his son. And that, for a man accustomed to winning, would be the most costly challenge of his life. The repercussions of the choice episode were immediate. A short video recorded by one of the guests and posted on social media was enough to transform the intimate event into a public spectacle. Within hours, gossip websites and luxury profiles were already commenting, "Businessman's son chooses cleaning lady as his mother." The headline was cruel, portraying Gabriel as confused and Elisa as opportunistic. Ricardo read the comments in the early hours of the morning, alone in the glass-walled room, and each line was a needle in a haystack. Who educates this child? It sounds like a cheap soap opera script. He felt his pride wounded, but also a rage he didn't know how to direct. The next morning, he got in his car and went to the service area. Elisa saw him approaching and stopped cleaning the hallway. He didn't look her in the eyes, speaking coldly. "I need you to keep your distance from Gabriel until things calm down." She swallowed hard, the cloth still in her hand. "I didn't do anything wrong, sir. I know. But the outside world doesn't understand." She answered without trembling. "The world out there understands what you allow them to understand." The phrase echoed, but he preferred to pretend he hadn't heard. He returned to the office and ordered his assistant to erase any mention of the matter. He tried to move on with his life, but the atmosphere at home had changed. Gabriel remained silent, refused the piano, refused breakfast. The boy who once lived among toys and laughter now drew locked doors. When Ricardo tried to talk, he responded with short phrases. "You didn't hear? She's good. You're afraid of what people will say." The father, accustomed to winning arguments with numbers, didn't know how to overcome arguments spoken by a small heart. Meanwhile, Elisa was living with the consequences of her choice. The other employees treated her with a mixture of pity and distance. Some believed the gossip, others were simply afraid to get involved. She continued doing her work in silence, collecting wilted flowers and dust from a home that no longer breathed lightness. Sometimes, walking down the hallway, I would hear Gabriel softly playing a broken melody. I would stop for a few seconds, but never go in. He knew that distance was his way of protecting him. One afternoon, Ricardo arrived home early and found his son sitting on the stairs with red eyes. "What happened?" the teacher asked who my new mother was. I said, "I don't have a new mother." She laughed. Ricardo knelt down and tried to comfort him, but the boy turned away. "Dad, why are you ashamed of Elisa?" The father's silence was answer enough. That night, the businessman reviewed the video again. The image of Gabriel pointing his finger and saying, "I choose Elisa," had already been played millions of times. He paused on the employee's face. Surprise, astonishment, no ambition, just humanity. He felt something strange, a clean shame. the kind that can't be erased with justifications. The next day, he decided to visit his son's school to control the damage. He entered in a suit, greeted the administration, spoke about privacy, and asked them to avoid exposing Gabriel. Meanwhile, the boy in art class was drawing a house with a woman in a blue uniform and a huge sun behind her. The teacher looked and asked, "Who is that?" "The person who understands me." Back at the mansion, Ricardo found Elisa arranging flowers in the main room. He stood watching. The way she arranged each detail without haste had a delicacy he hadn't seen in a long time. Suddenly, he remembered his deceased wife, the way she tended the garden even on cold days, saying that flowers are stubborn, like love. Elisa turned and saw him standing there. "Do you want me to leave the room?" He took a deep breath. "No. I want to understand. Why does Gabriel trust you so much?" She hesitated, then replied simply, "Because I listen." Ricardo lowered his eyes. That response struck him more than 1,000 pieces of advice from executives. The woman he had pushed away out of shame was teaching him what presence meant, but the world wouldn't let it go easily. That night, one of the rejected guests gave an interview insinuating that Elisa used emotional blackmail. The comments worsened, and the social pressure grew. Advisors demanded an official statement. The image consultant proposed discreetly transferring the cleaning lady to another house to preserve the brand. Ricardo signed the dismissal document, and when he handed the letter to Elisa, she simply nodded. "I was expecting that. It's not personal." "No injustice is personal, sir. It just changes address." On the day she left, Gabriel ran after the shuttle car shouting, "You promised you'd stay!" She looked in the rearview mirror, her eyes brimming with tears, and said to the driver, "Please stop for a moment." She lowered the window, smiled sweetly, and said, "I'll stay wherever your hearts remind me to." And so it was. The mansion fell silent once more, but now the silence tasted of regret. Ricardo watched everything from the balcony and, for the first time, realized that her absence weighed more than any scandal. That same night, looking at her sleeping son, she understood that the boy didn't want a new mother, he wanted a real home. And there was only one way to rebuild it: to admit that the world he himself had created didn't know what love was. Time passed slowly in that enormous house. The luxury that once impressed now only brought back memories of absence. Gabriel hardly spoke anymore. The piano, which once echoed with hope, remained closed, covered in dust. Ricardo tried to compensate with new toys, trips, private tutors, but nothing replaced what was lost at the gate the day Elisa left. Sometimes at night, he would walk through the hallways and hear his son whispering to himself, "She said that fear is wind," and the sound would break him inside. He tried to sleep, but guilt is a type of insomnia that doesn't respond to medication. One morning, while leafing through reports in his office, Ricardo received a call from the school principal. "Mr. Vasconcelos, we need to talk about Gabriel." His heart raced. Upon arriving at the school, he saw a group of parents and teachers gathered in the courtyard. In the center, his son stood with a firm gaze, while some classmates laughed. One of the boys shouted, "The cleaning lady's son wants to be a prince." Laughter erupted. Ricardo approached, furious, but Gabriel raised his hand, asking for silence. "I'm not the cleaning lady's son, but I wish I were." The phrase cut through the air like a lightning bolt. The principal tried to intervene, but the boy continued. "She's more of a mother than many people here. She knows how to listen, and her father doesn't need to be rich for her to be good." Ricardo felt his legs tremble. His son was defending in front of everyone the woman he had expelled, and at that moment he realized he was looking at someone far braver than he had ever been. The silence that followed was awkward. Then timid applause began, first from a teacher, then from some students, until the entire courtyard echoed with the sound of truth. That afternoon, Ricardo went to the administrative area of the hotel where Elisa had gotten a temporary job. He entered the service area with his heart racing, the same man who used to be feared now with his head down. When she saw him, she stopped folding towels and stood motionless. "I came to get what I forgot," he began. "What did you forget, sir?" he asked firmly, without irony. He took a deep breath. "My son's peace, and mine too." Elisa looked away. "You asked me to keep my distance, and it was the biggest mistake of my life." He approached slowly, his voice choked with emotion. "I created a world where appearances mattered more than truth, but Gabriel showed me that love doesn't fit into pretty frames." She remained silent, holding back tears. "What do you want from me now?" "Come back, but not as an employee, as part of our family, if you want." Elisa smiled sadly. "I don't know if the world will understand. So, let the world learn from my son." In the following days, the news took a different turn. Scenes of the boy hugging Elisa at the school gate circulated the internet with new captions. "Love conquers prejudice. The boy who taught his father to see with his heart." What was once mockery turned into admiration. The truth, when it finally reveals itself, doesn't shout, it moves. The following Saturday, Ricardo organized a small charity event at his mansion, this time without ostentation, without invitations for photos. He invited only employees, close friends, and of course, Gabriel. When everyone was gathered, he stepped onto the stairs and said in a firm voice, "For months I tried to teach my son what it means to choose with reason, and he taught me what it means to choose with my heart. I didn't lose a wife. I gained a new chance to be a better man." Everyone turned around. Elisa appeared in the doorway, wearing a simple dress and a shy smile. Gabriel ran to her and hugged her tightly. The audience applauded, moved. The same people who had laughed before now saw in her what the boy had always seen, truth. Ricardo approached, took her hand in front of everyone and said, "When my wife died, I thought I would never see love in this house again. Today I see it, and it came from where I least expected it." Elisa looked at him, her eyes welling up with tears. "Love doesn't choose an address, Mr. Ricardo. It just needs to be clean, like a freshly swept floor, without dirt, without pride." Gabriel smiled. "Now that's better, Dad. Now the house is happy again." The sunset streamed through the glass windows, illuminating faces. The mansion seemed to breathe again. The story spread, but this time as a symbol of hope. And when they asked the boy how he knew Elisa was the right person, he always answered the same way. Because when we lose someone we love, we don't need a replacement. We need someone to continue holding us up when the wind blows hard. And in that house, the wind never knocked anyone down again. Love doesn't always wear pretty clothes. Sometimes it appears in a simple uniform and silently changes the world.